The beautiful Vale of Clwyd, with its green rolling hills, is situated in northeast Wales. Nestling in the vale is Denbigh town, dominated by its medieval castle. And nearby is another eminent landmark, the North Wales Hospital. The hospital was opened in 1848 and named the North Wales Lunatic Asylum, initially designed for 200 patients. Locating the hospital in Denbigh was an inspired move. Denbigh was a thriving market town, located on an important commercial route linking London and Ireland. It had a stable commercial centre, and no other town in North Wales could have supported such a venture. The hospital was built by local craftsmen using limestone from the Graig quarry, and the superb stonework is considered to be of a very high standard. The hospital was revolutionary in its approach to nursing and became one of the leading hospitals in Britain in its field, as staff and managers still confirm.
One thing that impressed me when I came here was the quality of staff. First priority, in my view, by all grades of staff here was patient care. And I do believe patients here got first-class care.
The rumour was that to get a job here, you had to play a musical instrument or play a sport. I was a soccer player. That's how I came to work here. They needed a goalkeeper in their soccer team, and I got a job as a kitchen porter.
One of the first things I was asked was, do you play a musical instrument? And I said, yes, I do play the piano. There was a grand piano on the ward I worked on, and often used to play and they'd sing and enjoy themselves, you know.
And we had a choir, and we had a band, and to get those patients on that stage, it made my day.
One of my sisters was a nurse here, my mother worked here, and this is where I think they chose for me to come to work. I'm very grateful for that because I've been very happy here.
Hospital was a factory in its working. The catering was self-sufficient almost, baking bread. The laundry was down here, painting, tinsmith, upholsterers, joiners. Really, most of the upkeep of the hospital was done internally.
We had the farm, that was a type of occupation therapy, and a large number of patients in the early days used to go on the farm and work in the gardens.
It was, for many years, like a large village. I mean, you can imagine with 1,500 patients here, it was probably larger than the largest village in North Wales.
However, in the late 1980s, large Victorian hospitals were considered unsuitable, and it was decided to close Denbigh Hospital. Patients from the last ward were moved out and the hospital was closed in 1995.
Look at me and big smiles.
Yes, lovely.
Okay?
Hello.
There we are.
That was nice, wasn't it?
The 120-acre site was put on the open market and eventually sold by the NHS in good repair. Nevertheless, by 2002, the site was considered to be a building at risk. The hospital was sold again at auction to the current owner, and in 2005 outline planning consent was given for a mixed-use scheme, including enabling development. But the consent was not put into practice and planning permission lapsed. In 2011, Denbighshire County Council took statutory action to safeguard the building. From then on, working closely with the Prince's Regeneration Trust, the county has made every effort to ensure a quality solution.
Denbighshire County Council has been brilliant, really, in using its statutory powers to move towards a rescue of this building. It's only because they've served urgent works notices that the repair works that you can see now are happening. And without that, the building would, we know the building, part of the building would have collapsed. And we've been glad to be a partner with them in doing that, really.
In order to preserve the integrity of the oldest part of the building, The first priority was to install a temporary roof to stop any further deterioration.
Yes, what we have here is a new roof structure which we put in place of the previous timber structure which had rotted away. So the steel roof structure supports a temporary roof covering of corrugated steel. Now the legislation allows us to only to do the minimum necessary to secure the future of the building. So we haven't gone to any great lengths to make it look pretty. But there is the possibility, subject to getting the necessary listed building consent, that this steel structure could stay in place. And therefore, the money involved in putting it in place hasn't been completely wasted. It could be reused in any future use of the building.
Well, Denbigh Hospital is a really important Grade 2 star listed building, and it's the best example of this building type really in Wales, of a Victorian asylum. Historically very important because it was built to provide care for mentally ill people who were Welsh speaking, so they didn't have to go to England in English speaking asylums. And as you can see, the building is in dire need of viable new uses and repair.
The Prince's Regeneration Trust is one of the Prince of Wales group of charities that was set up about 15 years ago now to rescue buildings which were beautifully built but which no longer were needed for their existing purpose. And the one that we're working on here, Denbigh Hospital, is just a fantastic example of that. Really beautiful set of buildings, but no need now for a hospital of this size, particularly for a mental hospital, so we need to find a way in which we can rescue and reuse them. Saving these buildings is really important because they're something that is really embedded in the local history of the area. They're really important in people's memories, and many people will have worked there, they've had family that have worked there, and therefore I think if you lose them, you lose something that's part of the identity of a place. There isn't the money to keep very large buildings empty and unused, so there has to be a viable way in which those buildings can be occupied, and that's what the Prince's Regeneration Trust does. It makes these buildings fit for purpose for the next 100 years.
The building, this part of the building, also shows how the building changed in its lifetime. Over here we have an early use of reinforced concrete, and this column, which I would consider to be very slender for reinforced concrete, but nevertheless has stood the test of time, was constructed in the first decade of the 20th century. And so the original line of the external wall was along the line of this line of columns, and then the building was extended to where the external wall is now. So not only was it an interesting building architecturally, an interesting building from the point of view of social reform, but also an interesting building in the development of building materials and techniques.
The roof is on, the building saved, the first phase complete. This august, early Victorian building looks in hope to the future. The site presents a unique opportunity with plenty of scope for development without unsettling the overall character.
I think one other important aspect is it isn't just a fine Grade 2 star listed building, it's the setting of the building. So as you come out of Denbigh and you see the hospital, it's a really fine parkland setting which any scheme that happens here must protect. So we're very keen that setting is preserved.